Hello Year 9 GCSE PE class, I hope you're well. Today's lesson is on fitness testing. As always, if you want to access the lower marks, you just need to describe and explain, give me the basic facts. If you want to access the middle grades, then you need to apply or analyse. Apply in relation to a sporting example, and if you want to access the higher grades, then you have to critically evaluate, including strengths and weaknesses where you can. So, today's lesson, fitness testing. The reasons why we fitness test are pretty cyclical. So if you remember the first one, then the rest flow in your exam. So the first one, why do we do fitness tests? Well, it's to give us a baseline measurement of our levels of fitness in the different components of fitness. Remember that in our last lesson we talked about the 11 components of fitness. So if I wanted to test my strength, I might do a 1 rep max test in order to give me baseline measurements of my strength. Now, from that baseline figure, you can work out your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths and weaknesses in relation to national norms, yes, which is important, but also your strengths and weaknesses in relation to the people you're playing with and playing against. So for example, if I was a county football player, then if I did a 30-metre sprint test on the national norms chart for my age group, I'm likely to come out as excellent. But if I compared my speed to another county player, and in the last match I was getting beaten over a 20-metre sprint on a through ball because I'm a fullback and that's really important, then obviously there's a need, even though on a national ratings chart that my fitness is excellent for speed, there's still a need to improve my speed. So don't just relate it to national norms, relate it to the people you're playing with and playing against. To ascertain whether you need to improve that level of fitness. Once you've worked out your strengths and weaknesses and whether there is a need to improve that aspect of fitness, then we can set ourselves some SMART targets for improvement. So we would set ourselves a training program. If it was speed, then it might be an anaerobic interval training program, and I would set myself SMART targets. So the SMART targets might be 1, to improve my 30-metre sprint test by 0.2 seconds over 8 weeks. And another target might be to improve my 100-metre sprint time from 13.1 seconds to 12.9 seconds in that same time period. Why set ourselves targets? Simply because targets are motivational. You give yourself a target, you're going to work hard to try and achieve that target. The other reason why we give ourselves why we fitness test is because if I'm 4 weeks into that training program to try and improve my speed, I can actually test myself again and I can see whether I'm making improvements. It's a good way of monitoring whether your training program is being effective or not. If you're making small improvements towards your final goals, then keep to your plan. But if you're not making progress, then you might need to change your plan. So fitness testing is really good for monitoring. And then eventually, after that 8 weeks, you test yourself again and you can see whether that training was effective, whether you've improved in that area of fitness that you targeted. Okay, so that's the kind of the why, that's the critical evaluation. They're the higher grades in your exam. Fitness testing has to follow 3 rules to be effective. The first rule is that the testing has to be valid. There has to be validity to your testing. What do I mean by that? Well, does it test what it's supposed to test? Is it fit for purpose? So for example, let's go back to my speed again. If I wanted to measure my speed, then a 30-metre sprint test would be an absolutely valid test to measure my speed. Maybe the Illinois agility test would be a valid test for that as well, because that's maximum speed around cones. That would also test agility. But something like a flexibility test, maybe the sit and reach test, would not be a valid test to measure my speed. It wouldn't be fit for purpose. The sit and reach test would measure my flexibility, not my speed. The second rule is that any test you do has to be reliable. What do we mean by reliable? Well, is it retestable? why do we want a test to be retestable? Because we can gain an average, and then the results are more accurate. So, in order to make a test reliable, I have to be able to control the variables of that test so that I can retest. So that if I was doing maybe the multi-stage fitness test to measure my cardiovascular endurance, then I would want to, the variables I would want to control would include things like, I'd have to do the test in the same sports hall, the same time of day, using the same stopwatches, running either on my own as I did the first time, or running with the same group of people. My preparation for that test would have to be the same as well. So, how much sleep did I have the day before the test? What diet did I have before the test? If you can control those variables, then the test becomes reliable. And if the results are reliable, then they're worthwhile. The third rule is to follow the protocols of each individual test. Now, each individual test has a set of protocols, a set of rules that you have to follow. So I've given just 2 examples here. So the first example I've said is a 30-metre sprint test. So if you're asked in an exam, what are the protocols of a 30-metre sprint test, then you would first of all say that a course is set up 13 metres, which is 30 metres in distance. Now, the second thing you would say is that the runner has a flying start. So by the time he hits the first cone, he's running at his maximum speed. The next protocol would be that you have a stopwatch to measure the time it takes in seconds to get from the starting cone to the finishing cone. Okay, they're quite simple protocols for the 30-metre sprint test. There's slightly more difficult protocols for the Illinois agility test, which is my example 2. So on this one, the course is 10 metres by 5 metres, and the runner starts from a lying down start, and when the whistle goes or the gun goes, he has to run in between the cones as quickly as possible. You use a stopwatch to measure in seconds. And in my exam, on the side of a paper, I would always kind of draw the Illinois agility course. Even if you've not explained it brilliantly, the examiner can see from your diagram that you know the protocols for that test. Okay, now we will do all of these tests in lessons, so you will become accustomed to all of the protocols. They are easy ways to gain your marks. We're going to do our own training program as well, so we will work out where our strengths and weaknesses are. We will set ourselves some SMART targets. We will monitor halfway through the program, and then we'll see if we've improved our fitness at the end by doing the same tests at the start, the middle, and at the end. What I'd like to do now, please, is I will put this presentation on Show My Homework. As always, this is lesson number 25. I'd like you to add the attachment, the photo attachment, to your mobile phones, so it adds to your album of lessons. I would like you to also please test yourself, revise them, test yourself, give them to your parents, and your parents can test you as well. Okay? Please stay safe, please isolate, and I'll see you again soon.